Ladies, here's the truth that no one wants to say out loud. Attraction isn't just about beauty. It's about behavior. Every day, I see incredible women wondering why they're not being pursued, why the guys they like always seem to disappear, or why they keep ending up in situationships instead of relationships. And it's not because they're not good enough. It's because they haven't been told this one truth. One of the most misunderstood dynamics in dating is the balance between being available and being a mystery. Many people operate under the belief that if they're always around, always responding instantly, always saying yes, it will somehow communicate interest and increase their chances of connection. But in reality, this does the opposite. Especially in the early stages of attraction, men aren't hardwired to value what's always there, what's predictable, or what's given away too easily. Human beings in general, not just men, are drawn to what feels rare, special, and not quite within reach. That's not about playing games. That's about understanding psychology. It's about understanding how value is perceived. Imagine someone gives you a gift every single day without asking, the same gift at the same time, in the same way. What happens after a week, a month? You stop appreciating it, you start expecting it, it becomes part of the background. But what if that same gift came once in a while, beautifully wrapped, thoughtful, and unexpected? You'd cherish it more. You'd look forward to it. You'd feel the impact more deeply. It would feel special. Now apply that to your behavior in dating. When a woman shows all her cards too soon, constantly texts, constantly says yes to plans, makes herself available at the drop of a hat, she eliminates the space for intrigue, curiosity, and pursuit. And it's not about making him work for fun. It's about making sure he values what he's getting. Mystery isn't the same as emotional unavailability. It's not about being distant or detached. It's about preserving a part of yourself. It's about not revealing everything too soon. It's the ability to be warm and open without being completely transparent in the first few chapters of the story. This mystery creates what psychologists call perceived scarcity. In simple terms, it means we tend to place higher value on things we believe we could lose or that are not easily accessible. When a man feels like he hasn't quite figured you out, when he senses that there's more to uncover, that's when he leans in. That's when the chase begins. Not because you're toying with him, but because you're showing that you're not here to impress, you're here to express, selectively, thoughtfully, and with self-respect. It's also important to recognize that mystery doesn't mean being cold or aloof. You can still smile, engage, flirt, and connect, but you don't rush to close the deal. You don't hand over emotional intimacy before he's built a foundation of trust and consistency. You pace the relationship. You allow room for him to earn access to deeper parts of you, your time, your energy, your story. Think of it like this. Attraction is born in space. The pauses, the unanswered question, the not knowing exactly what's next, that's the fertile ground where desire grows. When everything is spelled out on day one, your feelings, your availability, your expectations, it can feel like reading the last page of a novel before finishing the first chapter. It kills curiosity. It shortcuts chemistry. And it makes what could have been something magical feel more like a transaction. So the next time you feel the urge to text back instantly, to always say yes, or to overshare in hopes of building closeness, pause, ask yourself, am I doing this to genuinely connect, or because I'm afraid of losing his attention? If it's the latter, take a breath, recenter. Remember that mystery is not about hiding. It's about revealing yourself slowly, intentionally, and with discernment. Because the women who master this balance of being open but not overexposed, available but not always accessible, are the ones who don't just catch a man's attention, they keep it right there. Is what makes 95.7% of men chase confidence, is one of the most misunderstood qualities in dating. It's not loud, it's not about walking into a room and demanding attention, it's not about dominance or perfection. Real confidence is quiet. It's calm. It doesn't need to prove itself. And that kind of confidence is magnetic. When a woman embodies true self-worth, not just talks about it, but lives it, everything about her shifts. The way she walks, the way she communicates, the way she responds to others. She doesn't try to be chosen. She chooses. She doesn't over-explain or chase clarity from someone who's not showing up. She doesn't beg for reassurance. Why? Because she already has it within herself. Men are drawn to this kind of energy, not because it's intimidating, although it might be to someone who isn't ready for it, but because it feels grounded. It feels rare. It's the kind of energy that doesn't need someone to validate it. And ironically, that's exactly what makes people want to be around it. A confident woman doesn't ask, why hasn't he texted me back? She asks, do I even want someone who makes me question my value? See the difference? She flips the script. She puts herself in the position of power, not by force, but by self-awareness. She knows she's a catch. And more importantly, she knows it's not her job to convince anyone else of that. This isn't about arrogance. Arrogance is a mask. It's loud and performative. Confidence, on the other hand, is rooted in self-trust. It comes from doing the work, from learning, healing, setting boundaries, and not abandoning yourself just to be accepted by someone else. That kind of internal security can't be faked. It's felt. What does this look like in practice? It's in the way she maintains eye contact without needing to look away. It's in how she expresses her opinion without apologizing for it. It's in how she says no without guilt, and how she can walk away from someone she wants if their behavior doesn't align with her standards. And here's where it gets powerful. When a man meets a woman who doesn't need him, but still chooses to spend time with him, it changes the dynamic. Suddenly, he's not just trying to impress her, he's trying to keep up with her. He's drawn into her world, into the energy she radiates, because it feels different. It feels elevated. He recognizes, even subconsciously, that this isn't someone who will tolerate bare minimum. Men respect women who respect themselves. They value what doesn't feel easy to win. Not because they want a challenge for the sake of it, but because it means something when someone with options chooses them. Confidence says, I know I'm not for everyone, and I'm okay with that. It allows a woman to be selective, not out of fear, but out of discernment, and that makes her unforgettable. There's also a sense of emotional safety that comes from confidence. A woman who isn't easily shaken doesn't project her insecurities onto others. She doesn't spiral the moment something feels uncertain. She can hold her center, and that creates space for a man to be his authentic self too. There's nothing more attractive than someone who makes you feel both inspired and at ease. Confident energy does that. Confidence is the anchor. It's what keeps you from getting swept away in someone else's attention, validation, or inconsistency. It's what allows you to set boundaries, express desire without desperation, and show up fully without losing yourself. Confidence is the quiet, I know who I am. That doesn't need to be spoken because it's already felt. And that, more than looks, more than charm, is what makes 95.7% of men stop scrolling, stop searching, and start chasing. When we talk about attraction, people often jump straight to surface level qualities, looks, status, style, charm. But the truth, the deep, often overlooked truth is this: men don't fall for appearances, they fall for feelings. They chase the way a woman makes them feel about themselves, about life, and about the connection they're experiencing. That's the real secret. Attraction is emotional, not logical. You can be the most beautiful woman in the room, but if your presence doesn't create a feeling, one that's unique, rich, and hard to find elsewhere, you become forgettable. On the other hand, someone with average looks, but who radiates warmth, authenticity, and emotional depth can become utterly magnetic. People remember how you made them feel. They don't remember what you wore or exactly what you said, but they remember if they felt seen, energized, challenged, or safe around you. Men especially are drawn to experiences that awaken something new in them, something they don't get from anyone else. A woman who makes a man feel understood, inspired, or even a little bit challenged in a way that encourages him to rise, she becomes unforgettable because it's rare, and what's rare becomes valuable. So how does that happen? How does a woman create emotional impacts? It starts with presence. Being fully present with someone is more powerful than anything you could say or do to impress them. When you truly listen, not just with your ears, but with your eyes, your energy, your curiosity, you create a space where that person feels seen. That's rare. Most people are too busy thinking about how they come across to fully engage with someone else. But when you're not trying to control the impression you make and instead focus on being curious, honest, and open, That's when emotional intimacy begins to build. Then there's emotional range, the ability to be playful and deep, lighthearted one moment, insightful the next. A woman who can tap into different emotional frequencies creates a dynamic experience. Men don't chase a checklist of traits. They chase the energy that comes from unpredictability in the best sense of the word. Emotional contrast, that ability to be soft yet strong, mysterious yet real, creates chemistry. Let's not forget challenge, not in a combative way, but in the sense that she holds a mirror up to him. She doesn't shrink herself to keep the peace. She doesn't agree with everything to stay liked. She reflects what's true for her even when it's uncomfortable. And that truth, when delivered with grace and respect, earns deep admiration. Men respect a woman who can call them out lovingly, who doesn't just go along with things, but invites them to be better, not through criticism, but through example. Joy. Joy is often underestimated in attraction. A woman who brings a sense of play, wonder, and lightness, who isn't always stuck in seriousness or control, creates a feeling of ease, of escape. That's powerful. Life is hard enough. When a man meets someone who feels like a break from the noise, someone he can laugh with, let go with, and simply be with, that's when he wants to keep coming back. So it's not about trying to be the most impressive. It's about being the most impactful. The woman who gets pursued isn't always the most perfect. She's the most memorable. And she's memorable because she made him feel something different. You don't have to be everything. You just have to be something real, because men don't chase appearances. They chase the emotion behind them. They don't chase logic. They chase the feeling that says, I've never experienced this before and I don't want to lose it. That emotional fingerprint you leave behind, that's what makes 95.7% of men chase. Standards are often misunderstood in dating. Some people think having standards means being difficult, picky, or hard to please. But the truth is, having clear, unapologetic standards isn't just powerful, it's deeply attractive. When a woman knows what she will and won't accept, she sends a message that says, I value myself, I've done the work, and I'm not here to settle for less than I deserve. That message doesn't scare the right man away, it draws him in. A woman with standards is not trying to control other people's behavior. She's not telling someone else how to act. She's simply drawing a clear line between what is welcome in her life and what is not. And here's what most people miss. Standards are not walls to keep people out. They are filters to let the right people in. When a man meets a woman who has clear standards, he immediately understands that access to her isn't guaranteed, that her attention, her time, her energy, these are earned, not assumed. And because of that, he respects her more. He may not even realize it consciously at first, but something about her feels different. She has gravity. She doesn't bend to convenience. She holds herself to a higher frequency, and that energy is contagious. Let's be clear. Standards are not ultimatums. An ultimatum says, do what I say, or else. A standard says, this is who I am and what I align with. You are free to choose, but so am I. That's where the power lives, in knowing that you are always free to walk away from what doesn't honor you. A woman who lives by her standards doesn't chase. She doesn't tolerate mixed signals, inconsistency, disrespect, or emotional immaturity. Not because she's cold or guarded, but because she honors her emotional well-being. She's not afraid of being alone. She's afraid of abandoning herself just to feel temporary closeness. And that's what makes her magnetic. Think about it. When you meet someone who's kind but firm, warm but grounded, open but not willing to compromise on core values, don't they stand out? Don't they feel like someone you want to earn your place with? That's the effect standards have. They elevate the room. They create space for depth and accountability. What's even more powerful is that standards create attraction through contrast. In a world where emotional availability can feel rare, where people settle for situationships and breadcrumbing has become normal, a woman who refuses to participate in that pattern becomes a breath of fresh air. She's not difficult, she's clear, she's not rigid, she's rooted. And the right man sees that as a challenge, not a problem. He steps up, not away. Because high-value men want to be with women who have standards. They want to know that the woman they're investing in doesn't just say yes to anyone. It makes their connection feel earned, meaningful, real. And ironically, The very boundaries that push the wrong men away are the same ones that pull the right men closer. When you have standards, you move differently. You don't rush, you don't second guess every text or overanalyze every word. You observe, you listen, you let people show you who they are, and you adjust accordingly. And in doing so, you naturally inspire people to show up better around you. Because the person who respects themselves sets the tone for how others treat them. The woman who calmly says, "That doesn't work for me," without drama or explanation, is the woman who makes people rethink their behavior. She becomes the one men remember, the one they chase, not because she played hard to get, but because she wasn't easy to forget. That's what happens when you have standards. That's what makes 95.7% of men step up or step aside. There's a subtle truth about desire that most people overlook. It doesn't grow in constant closeness. It grows in space. What makes someone think about you, long for you, even chase you is not how often you're around, but how deeply they feel your absence when you're not. That's the power of space. It's not about distance for the sake of ego. It's about creating room for attraction to breathe. So many women make the mistake of believing that the more available they are, the more a man will appreciate them. They respond quickly, say yes to every plan, keep their schedules open just in case he calls. It comes from a good place, a desire to connect, to build something real. But ironically, this kind of over-availability often leads to the exact opposite of what they want. The man starts to pull away. The spark fades. Things feel less exciting, less alive. Why? Because there's no space. Desire is born in anticipation. It's built in the silence between conversations, in the unknown, When everything is always accessible, there's nothing to wonder about. There's no chance to miss each other. And without that tension, the emotional rubber band just goes slack. The connection stops stretching, it stops growing. This isn't about playing hard to get. It's about allowing life and attraction to have its natural rhythm. When you give someone space, you create the opportunity for them to feel the impact of your presence. When you're not always there, he has to notice what it feels like when you're gone. And that awareness, that gap, is often what causes someone to realize how much they value you. But it takes self-trust to allow that space. It takes the kind of quiet confidence that says, I don't need to force this. If it's real, it will grow. Many people struggle with this because space can feel like rejection. Silence can feel like danger. So they fill the gap with messages, with check-ins, with effort, not realizing that all of this can become noise that drowns out attraction. There's something powerful about a woman who knows when to lean in and when to lean back. She doesn't panic when things feel a little quiet. She doesn't chase clarity from someone who's inconsistent. She lets him feel her absence, not to punish, but to balance the energy. She understands that a man who's truly interested will notice when she's not around, and he'll move toward her without needing a prompt. Think of attraction like music. It's not just the notes that matter. It's the pauses between them. That space creates rhythm, tension, release. Constant sound becomes noise. Constant presence becomes background. But when something beautiful disappears for a moment, you notice the silence it leaves behind. You lean in, you listen harder. Creating space also allows you to reconnect with yourself. Instead of being consumed by what he's doing or not doing, you return to your own life, your passions, your friends, your peace. And that self-connection is magnetic because when he does reach out, you're not waiting. You're living, and there's nothing more attractive than a woman who is in love with her own life. That's the paradox. The more you hold space for your own world, the more someone wants to be part of it. You become the person he thinks about when things are quiet, when the crowd fades, when he's lying in bed at night wondering why no one else feels quite like you. So don't be afraid to give space. Don't be afraid to let things breathe. If the connection is strong, it will stretch, not snap. And if someone disappears in the space you give, they were never chasing you to begin with. Because the women who create space and are confident enough to sit in it are the ones who create desire. And that desire is what makes 95.7% of men start the chase. One of the most powerful and underrated traits a woman can bring into dating is unpredictability. Not in the sense of being emotionally erratic or inconsistent, but in the sense of having layers, depth, and the ability to surprise. Unpredictability, when it comes from a place of authenticity, keeps attraction alive. It makes a man lean in because he knows he hasn't quite figured you out yet. And that mystery, that sense of discovery is incredibly compelling. People fall into patterns early on. They follow the same scripts, send the same texts, go on the same dates, share the same stories. And while there's nothing wrong with familiarity, it can quickly lead to a kind of emotional flatline. Things feel safe but not exciting, predictable but not magnetic. The spark begins to dim, not because there's anything wrong, but because nothing new is being revealed. Now imagine the opposite. A woman who brings a sense of dynamic energy to the connection. One day she's spontaneous and playful, cracking jokes and being lighthearted. Another day she opens up emotionally and shares a powerful insight about life. She's not putting on a show, she's just in tune with herself and she expresses what's real in the moment. That's what makes her unpredictable in the best way possible. She doesn't follow a script. She brings all sides of herself to the table, not all at once, but when it feels right. That unpredictability creates emotional texture. It keeps the connection from going stale. A man who experiences this kind of energy isn't just curious, he's invested. Because every interaction becomes a discovery, and with each new layer she reveals, the emotional bond deepens. It's not about withholding or playing games, it's about letting yourself unfold over time. Unpredictability also ties into playfulness, another major factor in what makes a woman unforgettable. Playful energy brings out the best in people. It lightens the mood, makes conversations fun, and allows both people to drop their guard. When a woman can tease, laugh, challenge, and flirt in an effortless, genuine way, she instantly stands out. She becomes a source of joy, not just validation, and that joy is addicting. But unpredictability isn't just about fun, it's also about depth. A woman who is intellectually curious, emotionally self-aware, and not afraid to challenge someone's perspective introduces growth into the relationship. She doesn't just agree with everything to keep the peace. She brings new ideas. She questions things. She inspires him to think differently. That kind of interaction is rare and it sticks. It's important to note that unpredictability doesn't mean instability. This isn't about mood swings or being emotionally unavailable. It's about being multidimensional. You can be nurturing and fierce, grounded and wild, soft and strong. The contrast is what creates fascination. It makes a man think, there's more to her. I want to see what else is beneath the surface. And here's the beauty of it. When a woman embraces her full range, her quirks, her wit, her seriousness, her sensuality, her intelligence, she becomes a one of one, irreplaceable. Because while beauty can catch the eye, it's depth and unpredictability that capture the soul. This is how you keep someone emotionally engaged, by staying emotionally alive, by not reducing yourself to a role or an ideal, by being real but never boring, consistent in your values but full of surprises in your expression. That kind of energy invites pursuit. So don't be afraid to show different sides of who you are. Don't be afraid to mix lightness with depth or confidence with vulnerability. Be someone who makes others feel like they're always learning something new, not because you're trying to impress them, but because you're always evolving. Because the woman who cannot be fully predicted is the woman who cannot be easily replaced. And that's what makes 95.7% of men not just chase, but keep chasing. So here's the truth. The kind that no one tells you, but the kind that changes everything. Attraction isn't about looks. It's not about being the most available, agreeable, or accommodating. It's about energy. It's about the emotional experience you create. It's the way your confidence makes someone rise, how your standards command respect without saying a word. It's the emotional imprint you leave behind through your presence, your absence, your depth, your unpredictability. The woman who gets chased isn't the one who tries the hardest. She's the one who knows she doesn't have to try because she is the experience. She's the one who makes a man feel something different, something real. And once he feels it, he doesn't want to lose it. This isn't about manipulation. It's not about playing games. It's about returning to your power, letting go of the need to perform, choosing alignment over approval, and watching how the world, especially men, start to respond to the woman who responds to herself first. When you carry yourself like the prize, you shift the entire dynamic. You stop chasing, you stop convincing, you start receiving, and suddenly the men who were unsure, unavailable, or unmotivated begin to notice, begin to step up, begin to chase, because 95.7% of men don't chase what's easy. They chase what feels unforgettable, is exactly what you are when you own who you truly are.